I'm Savlor Lama, and I'm here with the news for the hour. Moving on to the first news. Our reporter at Gabra Mikhail visited one household in Magala with 6 members to observe the severe impacts of the ongoing siege on Tigray that has blocked all commercial goods from coming into the region, as well as essential discontinued services such as banking and telecommunication. Let's take a look.
The discontinuation of banking service, telecommunication, and blockade on all commercial goods has made life impossible difficult in Tigray, where it's now become impossible to access cash or other essentials. Tsagga is a single mother to her 4 children. She supported her family by baking and selling injera before the start of the conflict, but she said that now becomes impossible.
መጀመሪያ أنا ሰሪሄ يعبني ቆልዑ ሕዚ ግን ሰራሕ ለይ የለይ እንጀራሽ ቅጠል ነው ሁሉም ሳንቲም የለይ መሸቀጥ የለይ
I have 4 children. I had a job so I could work and support them, but I'm no longer able to bake and sell injera because stuff is so expensive now, and I don't have any cash to start a new business, and there are no job opportunities as well. So I'm forced to stay home.
Tsige says her mother, who is visually impaired, has started to beg for money to try and support her grandchildren.
We have nothing at home. We don't have anything to eat or drink. I used to support my elder mother, but currently she is forced to beg at the church, hoping to bring something for her grandchildren. The only food my children can get now is breakfast at Housing Square, where local NGOs have been providing breakfast for children. I feel very bad when I see my family sleeping without eating anything, and it makes me feel angry and sad. When my children come from outside and ask me to give them something to eat, it makes me feel sad.
Tsagga is one of the millions of Tigrayan mothers who are suffering along with their children due to the ongoing siege that blocked much needed food aid, according to Yerga Gabrezgabiher, regional manager for the local NGO Social Service, Health and Development in Tigray.
The parents of those children were in a good economic situation before the war, and this is the result of the war. Become people suffering of the blockage, and no aid is coming. So this is our response to protect people from and prevent people from dying. We only provide breakfast. We can't give them lunch or dinner. And for 90% of the children, this is the only meal that they are having for this day.
Yerga emphasized that the ongoing blockade goes against the international norms and standards that prohibits the use of food, medicine, and other essential items as a weapon of war.
This problem is human-induced. It is created by few people who intentionally want to harm the people. I never seen this kind of punishment. Politicians can punish politicians. It could punish politicians. But punishing people, it never happened, and I don't think it will happen in mankind coming history. So 400 children compared to the children in Tigray, in terms of number, is nothing. There are thousands and thousands of children without any single breakfast or a single bread per day in Tigray.
Tigray's Office for Emergency Response says over 6.5 million people in Tigray are in dire need of humanitarian assistance, indicating that millions may be on the brink of death if aid is not able to reach them and soon.
The withholding of Tigray's annual budget, as well as the discontinuation of banking services, has devastated the region's economy, leaving many with very few options to satisfy basic needs. Our reporters visited Mohoni Primary Hospital in southern Tigray and spoke with health workers there that have not had a salary for over 10 months now. They say professionals at the hospital have run out of coping mechanisms to deal with the ongoing siege that has left over 6.5 million people in dire need of humanitarian assistance. Our reporter Haile Gabru has more on this.
The discontinuation of banking service in Tigray and the withholding of Tigray's annual budget has devastated Tigray's economy. So much so, professionals of all sectors who once had a stable and a steady income are no longer able to afford essentials. This is Mohoni Primary Hospital in southern Tigray. Health workers there say the 9 months long siege on the region has meant that many health professionals are having to hungry.
I am a father of 2 children. Extended family members have been helping us provide for them so far, but now they can't help anymore and we still don't have a salary. Other colleagues are at the brink of death because they don't have any food. People are dying day in and day out.
We depended on our monthly salary, so it's been very difficult to make ends meet since the start of the siege.
The health professionals say the situation is making it ever more difficult for them to provide the care that is needed to patients.
On the one hand, people are starving to death. On the other, people are dying because they are not getting medical care. This also has to do with the fact that health professionals are also going hungry. We can sit at hospital and give patients the care they need.
This hospital provides service for over 4 districts. More than 200 women come here and every day to give birth. More than 200 women come here every day to give birth, but it is hard to continue to serve the community when you yourself have nothing to eat. Health workers are starting to feel hopeless. If things continue the way they're going now, we may be forced to close the hospital.
The health professionals say they are shocked the international community has so far failed to take punitive action against Abiy Ahmed and his government that is using famine as a weapon of war.
The world must open its eyes and see what's unfolding in Tigray. Millions have been displaced. Hundreds of thousands have been killed and gang raped. Civilian infrastructure has been deliberately destroyed.
The international community must help the people of Tigray, including health professionals. Moreover, I also plead with members of Tigray diaspora to do what they can to help those in need.
The past year of the conflict has been Tigray's health system as one of the primary targets of destruction by the allied Ethiopian and Eritrean forces that have not only destroyed important infrastructures but have killed 37 health workers, injured over 70, and displaced over 4,000.
According to Ethiopia's Red Cross Association, over 200,000 people in Tigray used ambulance every year. And that number, over 60%, are pregnant women in labor and in need of urgent medical attention. Our reporters in southern Tigray spoke to one mother who had to travel 10 kilometers in a cart while in labor to reach Mohoni Primary Hospital to receive the much-needed medical care. Karum Al-Dabrahan reports.
Alam Khalayu is a resident of Bayo Garasa in Raya Azobo, southern Tigray. She says it has been impossible for her to access medical care during her pregnancy because invading forces had destroyed and looted health facilities in her area. We met her at Mohoni Primary Hospital, over 10 kilometers from her hometown. She says her family brought her to the hospital by cart as she was in labor.
These days, it is very difficult. There are no medical supplies. There is nothing here. No ambulances are available. We are traveling by cart through the blisteringly heat. I gave birth after a lot of pain because of complications with my uterus.
Alan suppose Malis Vitsum says access to health care was more easily available before the start of the conflict. That's so the deliberate and systematic destruction of health facilities.
That is my wife right there. She is here to deliver a child. We used it to call a hospital to get ambulance service, but now we are forced to use the cart as a means of transportation due to shortage of fuel. Even if there was fuel available, we wouldn't be able to use it because many ambulances have been looted. We're suffering not only here but all over the region as there is no fuel and medical supplies.
Dr. Masala Mullah, the director of Mohoni Primary Hospital, and the midwives at the hospital say that the lives of pregnant mothers and newborns are at grave risk due to severe depletion of medical supplies and ambulances.
ካብተን 8 ጥዕና ጣብያታት ሪፈራል ኮይና ስለ ነገር ግን ካብአን ላባና ለምጽእ አምቡላንስ ስለዚህ
This hospital serves as a referral hospital for 8 health centers. There are no ambulances that would bring patients here from the health center. Many mothers are going to the health centers either on a stretcher or by a cart. If they are referred to this hospital, they would have to pay a lot of money that they can afford to even get here. As a result, a number of mothers are dying.
ህፃናት ኣብ ውሽጢ ሞይቶም ይወፁ ጋና ላፍቲ ሆስፒታል እንተይወፅሑ ኣብ ገዛኦም እንዳህለ ሰዓን ትራንስፖርት ዓዊጦም
Many infants die out of suffocation inside their mother's womb before they make it to the hospital. This is due to lack of transportation. Many mothers give birth at home and come here after losing a lot of blood. After 6 or 7 have been disposed to preeclampsia and eclampsia.
Burhan Mokonnen, who is the head of Ethiopian Red Cross Society of his branch in Tigray, says numerous mothers are dying due to the lack of ambulances following the depletion of fuel in the region.
Over 200,000 people in Tigray use ambulance services every year, of which over 60% were women in labor. Number of mothers giving birth at home has shown a significant increase, and this is leading to an increased rate of maternal mortality.
The World Health Organization has announced that there are close to 4 million people in Tigray in dire need of medical attention as the Ethiopian government maintains a blockade on all essential goods and services coming into the region, including medical supplies and food aid.
Agus Waldu and Bashai Berha worked as civil servants for 4 decades before their retirement. They depended on their pensions as primary sources of income until the Ethiopian government blocked banking services in Tigray, blocking retired civil servants like Agus and Bashai from accessing their life savings or pensions. For reports by Kibrom Al-Devran, La'alam Tajana.
Agus Waldu and Bashai Berha worked as civil servants for 4 decades before they retired some years back. They depended on their pensions as primary source of income. This is until the Ethiopian government blocked banking services in Tigray, blocking retired civil servants like Hagos and Bashai from accessing their lives, savings, or pensions.
We are old. We often need medical attention, but we can't afford to pay for our medical bills. We are in a desperate condition because the Ethiopian government had blocked us from accessing our bank accounts. We have served our country for more than 40 years. Now, we are unable to buy food for our families. Others in the same position as us have gone on the street or have starved to death.
A pensioner's salary must not be halted even for a month. But now we haven't been able to get our salaries for the past 10 months. And this is a big problem for us. We haven't been able to feed our children. We can afford to pay to get health care service because we have no money to do so.
Hagos also emphasized that pensions are earned through decades of services and cannot be withheld from civil servants that have faithfully served the communities.
A person becomes a pensioner after having served their country for decades. The pensions were taken from our salaries, but we are unable to access them. We are starving because of it.
Retired civil servants are just some of the 6.5 million people in Tigray in dire need of humanitarian assistance, as the Ethiopian government maintains a blockade on humanitarian aid that has lasted over 9 months.
During the 8 months of occupation, thousands have been killed, millions have been displaced, and many raped by Ethiopian forces and their allies from Eritrea. Our reporter spoke with survivors of sexual violence in Abiy Addi, west of Maghala, and they share a gruesome account of the violence committed. Salome Tigrai has the report.
An 8-month-long occupation of Tigray by allied Ethiopian and Eritrean forces has seen the arbitrary and mass killing of thousands of civilians, looting of private and public properties, the displacement of millions, and the horrific widespread use of sexual violence as a weapon of war. We spoke to one survivor of sexual violence in Abiy Addi, where she says she arrived after a gruesome journey from western Tigray, where Ethiopian forces were forcibly displacing Tigrayans.
Children and women were running away to escape the killing. I found the journey very difficult. I had to walk for 4 days to reach Shira. Then I came to Abiy Addi. They kept saying your brother and husband are juntas. Then 3 soldiers raped me.
Abi Adi, just like many places across Tigray, has seen numerous cases of rape.
They put us in line and told us they would kill us. There were little girls with us. I was wishing they would kill me first. I covered my face with my scarf, and then they told me to get it off my face. There were many soldiers, but it was 2 Eritrean soldiers that raped me. They were speaking a language that is never spoken here and had scars on their faces. They took me somewhere and raped me there. I don't know what happened after that. I lost consciousness. There was 2 of them. My baby was sleeping at a neighbor's house. I was alone in the house I rented. One of the soldiers was standing at the door, keeping people away. The other came in and asked me if I knew the Brazilian and where he was. I told him I don't know. Then he raped me and took the 17-gram silver necklace I had.
The ongoing siege on Tigray and the systematic destruction of health facilities across the state has made it impossible for survivors, such as the women we have spoken to here, to access healthcare, leaving them with no access to essential reproductive healthcare services.
So far, I have only tested for HIV. I don't have HIV, but I have a problem in my uterus. I can't control my urine.
Thousands of women were and are till this day being systematically raped by occupying Ethiopian and Eritrean forces. What's making it worse is that survivors are not able to access healthcare services, including psychosocial support, and may be forced to live with lifelong scars.
An IDP camp sheltering persons displaced from Western Tigray due to the ethnic cleansing campaign carried out by Ethiopian forces has reported that it has lost 17 IDPs due to starvation. The Ethiopian government's blockade on food aid and medical supplies and other non-food items such as has had a devastating impact on the IDP community that primarily depends on the aid to fulfill basic needs. Mira Neymana reports.
This is one of many facilities in city of Adigrat repurposed to accommodate the over 1 million internally displaced persons from Western Tigray. IDPs here say that they left their homes in panic and left all their belongings.
We left all our belongings and properties. We didn't even get a chance to lock our doors. We didn't take anything with us. I thank God I was able to escape safely with my children, but the road to Takaza was very difficult.
The Eritrean troops shelled the area, and then the Fano came. We were encircled. I'm a mother to this child. I have other children as well. I left with only the clothes I had on. I couldn't take anything else. The little baby over there, his mother had to carry him for over a month. Look at his body, his skin. He has scars everywhere. Women had been raped, infants were dying, and men were being slaughtered by knives, and they were shot with bullets. There were carnage. It is hard to put it into words. We haven't heard from family members and relatives we left there. We don't know if they are alive or dead, whether they have fled to Sudan or remained there. We have no clue of their whereabouts. I have no words to explain it.
After making the gruesome journey to Adigrat in Eastern Tigray, the IDPs hoped to find some solace. Instead, they're facing further hardships caused by the ongoing siege on Tigray that has made it impossible for them to access basics like food aid.
The community used to donate and help us. We were doing fine in comparison, but now there is nothing of that sort. The residents are themselves facing hardships. Even the people who had money in banks can't access their money because banks have been closed. Over 4 seniors, infantes, have died here. Countless people have been admitted into hospitals due to starvation. We constantly wait for the sun to rise and set again. We don't know what will happen to us.
There is no medication, no food, and no water. It is hard to hear your children crying out for food. The children can't even comprehend what it means not to have food. Children have already started to die. Many are getting sick.
The situation is extremely difficult. We are in the worst possible condition. There is no way for us to survive. We are worried sick.
Destawaldu is a coordinator at the camp. He says the camp has already lost 17 IDPs due to lack of food. He says IDPs, after escaping from horrific situations, are now facing a risk of death due to starvation.
We've lost 17 IDPs. We have observed 19 cases of child deformation due to malnutrition. The IDPs don't have a bed. They don't have clothes. We have people here that contracted illnesses because they're sleeping on cold floor. We just need food to keep us alive today. The bread here is for all of us. I urge anyone that can to help us.
If this continues, seniors such as myself and children will not be able to survive. I urge all that can help us.
The 9-month-long blockade on food aid and other essential items has endangered the lives of over 2 million IDPs that depend on humanitarian assistance to fulfill basics.
Tigrai Barha was displaced from western Tigray, Tigray district, after Ethiopian forces launched an ethnic cleansing campaign in the area that has displaced much of the Tigrayan population. Tigray is even more affected by the displacement due to her visual impairment. That has made coping with the new situation even more difficult. Let's take a look at the report. The war on Tigray has seen the deliberate targeting of health facilities and other important infrastructures, devastating the most vulnerable members of the community, especially those with special needs. Tigray Barha is one of over 1 million persons displaced from western Tigray, where Ethiopian forces carried out an ethnic cleansing campaign. She was a resident of Tigray district before the start of the conflict. Tigray was born visually impaired, but despite the many failures of the community to provide her with the support she needs, she completed her education and has been able to support herself and family members. But the start of the conflict has seen her life turn upside down. You can see my daily life. For example, today, I didn't eat my breakfast or lunch. I have nothing to eat for dinner either. I'm running on an empty stomach. I'm in a difficult situation now and I don't know what to do. It's impossible to think about education now. I'm not even sure if I'll live long. It's all about survival now. Tigray also emphasized that while the conflict has had a devastating impact on all communities in Tigray, people with special needs require special attention to overcome this difficult time. The suffering caused due to the siege is in every Tigrayan's house, but as a person with special needs, it creates more problems. We're in grave danger. It will be difficult if nothing is done to help us. Tigray moves through her home to show us that her small room she has rented in Maghala does not have a lock on its doors, nor does it have any furniture where she can lay her feet. But most of all, Tigray has nothing to eat.
ያው ረይወት ሸሓነለ ምንን የውልን ጥሩሕ ማለት እዩ እና ዛገዛ ሕሩጭ ምናምን ነው የላን ዛብረድስተውን.
Look at this plate. There is no food in it. There is no flour in this house. The cooker is empty too. Look at this dirty clothes. I cannot wash them because I have no salt. It is just piled here.
It's been 16 days since Abiy Ahmed's government announced a humanitarian truce in the hopes of facilitating the delivery of unhindered aid into Tigray. But just 28 trucks have arrived into the state in the past 2 weeks, well below the 1,600 that would have been required to address the humanitarian crisis on the ground. Bureau of Culture and Tourism, Tigrayan University Scholars Association, and Magala University held a workshop on Saturday to discuss the impacts of the conflicts on Tigray's historical and cultural sites. The Bureau said heritage sites were the deliberate targets of the destruction by invading forces that looted and damaged these historically and culturally significant sites. Aragoi Gabra Mikhail has more.
Bureau of Culture and Tourism held a workshop on Saturday where it discussed the impacts of the conflict on Tigray's historical and cultural sites. The Bureau said heritage sites were the deliberate targets of destruction by invading forces that looted and damaged the historically and culturally significant sites.
The destruction committed on tangible and non-tangible heritages in Tigray is immeasurable. Heritage sites preserved for centuries were targets of artillery attacks.
Dr. Abata Kasa from Makale University also said that civilians, tourist sites, and the whole ecosystem has been impacted during the war on Tigray by the Ethiopian as well as the Eritrean forces.
In Tigray is that deliberately, intentionally or unintentionally, civilians have been impacted. Tourist sites have been impacted. The whole ecosystem has been impacted. So it is the different. Tigray was not only the forces, the Tigray defense forces, but the whole Tigray was overwhelmed.
Dr. Abate also said that there are signs that indicate that the destruction was deliberate and systematic.
There have been reports that some of the attacks, destructions, devastations have been deliberate, and in fact, there were reports made by UNESCO and different organizations that some of the destructions and the targets were intentional, and even the forces that have waged war on Tigray have been open about it, and then they were saying that even holy places, churches would be destroyed. So I think some of the devastations have been deliberate.
Assistant Professor Gabra Kiros, a professor of tourism and heritage at Makale University, says the destruction of historical and heritage sites is against international as well as national laws.
A war is going on in Tigray. It's just a full-fledged, a complete war is going on in Tigray. And every war has its own rule. There is a law for war. And among the special things that get special privilege during war are heritage of a given community. So, as per the international laws and even domestic laws, heritage of a given country, a given community, a given nationality should be given priority in protection, even if there is a complete war in that area. But what's happening in Tigray is mostly, even you can say that things are going against the laws, international laws and domestic laws. The main iconic heritage of Tigray, which are the masterpiece for the world population, are being targeted. Just churches are being demolished, mosques are being demolished, and the movable heritage of Tigray are being burnt, illicitly trafficked.
Gabra Christos says all stakeholders have a to play to ensure that the destruction and looting that has been committed on heritage sites is properly documented.
Among the main issues that the government and related stakes, the universities, institutions, religious institutions, and even individuals have to do is we have to collect the necessary documents. We have to tangibilize our evidence. We have to have the videos, the photos, the contents, the testimonies on our hand. And in the preamble of UNESCO, it says that the heritage of a given community is heritage of the world, it says. So the heritage of Tigray, whether it is registered